You know his name from the bounty board. You know where the story ends. The stockades, a cell beneath Stormwind, a kingdom's answer to 3 years of raids. You don't know what he built to get there. This is that story. After the Third War, Stormwind stood largely alone. Its walls held, its marshals did not. They were stretched thin across a wounded land, filing reports that barely moved. In the cracks left by 3 wars, something was looking for ground. A Gnoll chieftain came to a bare hilltop in southwestern Elwynn Forest and stopped moving. Below him, the farms, the roads, the sightlines in every direction. He was not resting. He was choosing. In 3 years, the Riverpaw pack went from a scattered nuisance to an armed force. They took weapons and tactical guidance from the Defias Brotherhood. They crossed into Westfall. They burned farms on roads that Stormwind could not protect. For the first time in 100 years, the kingdom was afraid of gnolls. There was a name behind what Hogger was reaching for. A gnoll who had unified the packs and nearly broken Stormwind before the First War. That gnoll died on a king's blade. Hogger knew the story. He reached for it anyway. Marshal Dugan filed report after report. Then he posted a bounty. 27 fence posts across Elwynn Forest. Hogger's face, hand-drawn, nailed to wood. For the first time in a generation, a gnoll had forced the kingdom to answer. This the record of what came before the bounty board. The rise of a Gnoll King, in the years when the kingdom was looking the other way. Before the stockades, before the end. That story is coming. Follow this page, like this reel. Be there when it begins. Every empire starts with someone standing somewhere they were told not to stand. The hill was a bare rise at the southwestern edge of Elwynn Forest. Long grass, exposed stone at the crown. No one had cleared it because no one thought it worth clearing. Hogger stood at the top alone before the pack arrived. He was reading the land. The farms below were visible from here, the road south, the logging camp east, the gap in the tree line where travelers slowed at the creek. Everything that moved could be seen. Everything that moved could be hit. The Riverpaw gnolls came up the slope, lean and road-worn. Some sniffed the air. A few sat down. One looked at another. This was just a hill. Hogger pointed. The road, the farmstead at the forest edge, the gap in the trees. He said nothing a gnoll couldn't understand by looking. The pack went quiet. They hit the farmstead at dusk, when the farmers were between the fields and the house. Fast, coordinated. Food, tools, livestock, gone before anyone could respond. The pack ate well that night, for the first time in weeks, on their hill, from their land. Hogger drove a sharpened post into the earth at the crown of the hill. Animal bones, gnoll carvings. He pushed it in and walked away. No ceremony, no speech. The hill had a name now. 100 years earlier, a gnoll had done something like this. Stopped moving, claimed ground in the center of human territory, and held it long enough to make a king leave his city. That gnoll was dead. The packs he had unified had scattered. The story was mostly gone. What remained was the feeling. Hogger had it. From the valley below, a farmer looked up at the hill at the end of his day and saw smoke. A thin thread of it, pale against the dusk sky. He frowned. He went inside. He would mention it to someone in the morning. It would be logged as a campfire. It would not be investigated for 3 weeks. Before there was a Riverpaw expansion, there was a succession. It lasted less than a day. The outcome would shape the next 3 years. Cran had led the Riverpaw pack for 6 years. He was larger than most gnolls, and he had held the position through force. 3 internal challenges, all settled the same way. He had kept the pack alive through 2 hard winters. That was what he was. What he was not was hungry enough. The raids were repetitive, the routes unchanged, the targets chosen by habit rather than observation. The pack was fed, the pack was static. In pack law, those 2 things are not the same. Hogger did not announce it. There was no speech. On a morning in the 2nd week of autumn, he walked to where Kron sat eating and did not stop walking. The pack formed a ring without being told. They had seen this shape before. They knew how it resolved. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. What Hogger did afterward fell within the documented range of gnoll succession practice. The pack did not look away. By midday, Hogger was chieftain of the Riverpaw pack. He had paid in the only currency that counted. What he had taken, any gnoll in the pack could take the same way. He understood this before Kron was cold. 6 years of watching had shown him exactly how a chieftain loses what he holds. By growing comfortable, predictable, slow. Hogger would not make that mistake. The chieftain who provides is the chieftain who stays. He would give them something worth following. The morning after, the pack was waiting. They were always waiting after a succession, watching for the first decision, the one that tells them who they have followed. Hogger walked to the edge of camp and looked southwest, not toward the roads they had always raided, toward the forest edge, toward the farms, toward a bare hilltop he had been watching for months. He had been waiting for the right to decide. Now he had it. The kobold mines beneath Redridge had been abandoned since the Second War. In the autumn of that 3rd year, they were not abandoned anymore. Hogger had been watching the foothills for months. The small figures moving at the mine entrances, the dim candlelight flickering from below. The gold veins the war had simply interrupted. Raids fed the pack for a season. A mine fed it forever. The calculation was not complicated. The Riverpaw arrived before the sun cleared the ridgeline. The kobolds had no warning, no walls, nothing that mattered against gnolls moving in the dark. By the time the first light struck the red stone of the foothills, the warren had new management. Gnolls do not use chains. What they use is simpler. The kobolds work, or the kobolds do not eat. The ones who ran were not chased. The ones who stayed had already answered the only question that mattered. Within 3 days, the mine shafts were running again. Small hunched figures moving through candlelit tunnels, carrying ore upward into gnoll hands. They were not treated well. They were treated predictably. For a kobold, that is almost the same thing. Mark the moment precisely. A line of gnoll escorts moving northwest along a rocky trail at dusk. Ore sacks on their backs, the Riverpaw hilltop a dark shape on the horizon ahead of them. It was not a large shipment. It did not need to be. The pack had an income. That was new. That had never been true before. In Goldshire, a marshal's clerk set a rider's report on Dugan's desk. A kobold settlement in the Red Ridge foothills, previously categorized as a minor nuisance, not worth a patrol, had gone dark. Signs of gnoll activity. The word mines appeared in the Riverpaw file for the first time. Dugan read it, flagged it for follow-up, and set it aside. He did not yet understand what it meant. Garfang's unification of the Gnoll tribes was not built on violence alone. It was built on the ability to feed an army. Hogger now had a mine. He did not have an army yet. But the mine was the part Garfang had needed first. Hogger was not thinking about Garfang in this moment. He was counting ore, watching the numbers grow, feeling the restlessness behind his eyes go briefly quiet. He did not see the shape of what he was building. He only felt it. The shape was the same. The Defias Brotherhood had been operating in Elwynn Forest for 15 years by the time Morgan the Collector walked into the Riverpaw camp. He came alone. He brought no weapons. He did not need them. The gold moving off the hill did not go unnoticed. A pack that raids is a nuisance. A pack with an income is an opportunity. In late autumn, a single human walked the hill road into a camp full of gnolls. The sentries let him pass. A man who comes unarmed into a war camp is either a fool or something worse. They were the Defias, stonemasons who rebuilt Stormwind and were never paid for it, and for 15 years had worked the cracks of Elwynn by night. The man at the fire was no courier. Morgan the Collector wore one of the first red masks. He had come in person, which told Hogger the offer was real.
You move gold off this hill. I can move it farther than you can alone. Steel that does not bend. Magic your pack has never held. Targets worth more than a farmer's barn. You guard what is mine, and you strike where I point. Not raids, a schedule. You will still be king. You will simply be a king who is paid.
Hogger could raise a pack and point it. He could not forge steel or call fire. The deal handed him the half he was missing. Reach. He heard Garfang in it. An army needs more than a mine. He accepted before the fire burned down. From that night, the Riverpaw was no longer only his. The first delivery came within the week. Crates of clean steel among the firelit knolls, a folded map, red-masked men moving through the camp as if they belonged. The pack now had coordination it had not invented. Morgan rode out unhurried, already counting. The Brotherhood did not make allies, it made tools. With steel, magic, and a schedule, the pack's reach no longer ended at the Elwynn farms. West, past the river, Westfall lay all but unguarded. The alliance was sealed in autumn. The winter that followed would carry the Riverpaw across the river and teach a stretch of farmland a word it had not needed in 100 years. Coordinated. In the winter following the Brotherhood alliance, the Riverpaw raids crossed into Westfall. Marshal Dugan's reports, filed from Goldshire, began using a word he had not used before. Coordinated. The alliance gave the pack reach. Winter gave it cover. The Riverpaw crossed out of the Elwynn tree line into the open country of Westfall, flatter, drier, harder to hide in, and far softer to hit. Hogger did not ride west. He sent a commander, Django Spothide, to run the raids while he held the hill.
Hogger holds the hill. Out here, you answer to me. We do not fight the farms. We take them, we burn them, and we are gone before the bell rings. Move.
The raids were Defias-shaped. Targets Morgan wanted broken, hit with Brotherhood steel and Brotherhood timing. Westfall was already bleeding. The Brotherhood's own harvest golems had been driving farmers off the land for years. The gnolls were a second blade in the same wound. Fast, coordinated, gone before the militia could form. For one winter, the open country belonged to the fear of gnolls. Outlying farms emptied, roads went quiet at dusk. No gnoll had made men afraid like this in 100 years. Not since Garfang. Hogger felt it from his hill, and the pressure behind his eyes went quiet.
Elwynn, the mines. Now Westfall, the same rhythm, the same hand. This is not raiding anymore. This is a campaign. Note the word in the record. Coordinated. Begin the bounty.
That winter was the top of the arc, the closest a gnoll had come to Garfang since Garfang. Hogger did not see it as an ending, but the fear the Riverpaw built that season was the bounty's first draft. By spring, his face would be on the fence posts. On the 23rd day of that winter, Marshal Dugan authorized the posting of a bounty. By the time Hogger saw it, it had already gone up on 27 fence posts across Elwynn Forest. He read it twice. Then he went back to his hill. For 3 years, Stormwind had answered the Riverpaw with reports. Reports do not stop raids. A coordinated campaign was no longer an incident a marshal could log and survive. It was a thing the kingdom had to be seen to answer. And a kingdom stretched this thin answered the only way it still could. Not with an army it did not have, but with paper and a price.
3 years of reports. Elwynn, the mines, Westfall, one hand behind all of it. I do not have the soldiers to take that hill. So we put a price on it, authorized this day by my hand. Let someone come collect.
The notice went out the way everything moved in that kingdom now, by rider, by hand, nailed to whatever would hold it. The Riverpaw had spent 3 years becoming impossible to ignore. In that, they had succeeded completely. But to be feared by farmers is power. To be named by the kingdom is a countdown. Hogger found it at the edge of a burned farmstead. His own likeness, his own name, on Stormwind paper. He read it twice. He understood exactly what it was. Garfang had been given one of these in his way. To be wanted by the men was to be ranked with the legend, and the legend was the only thing Hogger had ever reached for. So he did not run. He went back to his hill. The last gnoll to make the kingdom write down his name was Garfang. Garfang did not run from his camp in the Red Ridge Hills either. He waited there until King Barathan Rin came in person and killed him where he stood. Hogger thought the paper was a coronation. He was repeating the only part of the legend that mattered. The price would be collected. Not that winter, and not by any hand yet in the forest, but it would be collected. Hogger would not see it as an ending, right up until it was. He stood on his hill, the king of a thing that was now officially on a clock, and looked out over a valley that already knew his name. Now, so did the kingdom.